Thank you all for coming. My name is Gregg Nunziata, and I am the Executive Director of the Society for the Rule of Law. For those of you who may not know us, we are a national membership organization of conservatives, libertarians, and center-right lawyers who prioritize the defense of the rule of law, the Constitution, and American democracy without regard to partisan advantage or policy agenda. This is our third annual Rule of Law Summit. It's our most ambitious yet. It's our first full-day program, and we're just delighted by the amount of interest we've received in this. We're so happy to have you here with us today. Next year, I think we need to get a bigger room, but thank you for coming. If you have any questions or need any help with CLEs or anything else, our staff is at the check-in desk, and as I hope most of you saw, there are refreshments in the room that run alongside of this one. If you are new to our programming, please, I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you consider becoming a member. We are a membership organization, and the support of our members make our programming possible. I think we all are very proud of this program we have for you today. Our theme is checks and balances in polarized times. Our system of checks and balances has seldom been more important or more tested than it is today, and we will consider this from a variety of angles. Over the course of the day, you will hear from prominent conservatives and libertarians who have long approached constitutional law and public policy from a deeply principled place. And you will also hear from those who don't consider themselves a part of the political right, but who also have important perspectives to share on the problems we face as a country. We at the Society have always believed that our work is more important than party or faction, and we welcome very much principled people from across the political spectrum as members, supporters, guests, and panelists. So welcome to all of you, whatever your political ideology might be. We're glad you are here in this conversation with us today. We also very much welcome non-lawyers. I hope there are a few in the room. Good, welcome, welcome, welcome. We'll try to avoid Latin. But we do believe that what we're going to discuss today is far too important to be left to lawyers alone. The law, the Constitution protect us all, and we all must protect them. So with that, I would like to give a warm welcome, I hope you'll join me, to Alan Raul, a veteran of many Republican administrations and board secretary of the Society for the Rule of Law.
Thank you, Greg, and thank you all for coming. You know, when you were talking about getting a bigger room, I thought you were going to say, with all the jaws out there in town, we're really going to need a bigger boat. So, Greg, you didn't mention one of the most important facets for those who are lawyers in the room, which is that there is continuing legal education available for this program. For the non-lawyers, if I can get your CLE, I'd really appreciate it if you'd follow up with me after. So I'm going to speak a little bit from a personal vantage about how the Society for the Rule of Law got to where we are today, what we're doing now, why we do it, and whether we're making a difference. So we were founded in 2018 as Checks and Balances. That was the name of the organization, as well as one of the principles we were seeking to uphold. So George Conway convened a group of former Federal Society stalwarts and Republican appointees who wanted to take a stand on principle. We committed to do our patriotic best to defend our democracy, the Constitution, and the rule of law, regardless of person or party in power. A few years later, in 2023, we were still in business, and we decided to relaunch in a bigger way as the Society for the Rule of Law. We recruited former Republican Congresswoman Barbara Comstock to join our board, joining George Conway, Stuart Gerson, Peter Keisler, Don Ayer, and me, as well as the inimitable Judge Mike Ludig, whose well-known advice to Vice President Mike Pence may very well have helped save the Republic. Well, since then, it seems like the Republic hasn't quite been done with us. So we've seen a further obliteration of democratic norms and the trampling of checks and balances. Criminal justice has not just been politicized, it's been egregiously personalized and deployed to carry out private vendettas. Due process and free speech are now lucky even to get lip service. In fact, the quiet part is often being screamed out loud. For example, the academic compact that is currently being shopped around actually tells universities that if they don't give up their First Amendment rights and agree to fall in line with the administration's values, they will be deemed to forego the right to receive federal benefits, like grants and contracts for life-saving medical research. Even the government itself has become a shameless pay-to-play operation. We also see the executive brazenly usurp Congress's spending, taxing, tariffing, and lawmaking power, all of which, as this crowd well knows, even the non-lawyers, I'm sure, that the Constitution vests those powers in the legislative branch. It's almost as though rewriting laws with a presidential Sharpie is just the way it's supposed to work now. Even the White House is literally being torn down in front of us without a peep from Congress. So how has the Society for the Rule of Law been trying to defend the Constitution and the rule of law, regardless of person or party in power? Well, we've expanded our leadership and increased our members to well over 1,000 so we can have this annual Rule of Law Summit like this. By the way, thank you very much for being members and attending this summit. We take positions, adopt principles, and issue statements on our website, societyfortheruleoflaw.org. For those of you who haven't visited yet, please do. Our members also write influential articles, hold webinars, speak at law schools and universities and on primetime TV, and sign and submit briefs. All of this to drive home the point that constitutional principles and checks and balances still matter. Facts still matter. Good faith and honest judgment still matters. Limited Madisonian government very much still matters. Patriotism matters, and basic human decency and respect still matter. As conservatives, center-right, and libertarian lawyers, we try to communicate these messages as best we can to courts, fellow lawyers, the public, and perhaps even to get through to some members of the administration. Sometimes the courts say it even better than we do. For example, in 2019, when Chief Justice John Roberts explained why the court was rejecting the Department of Commerce's pretext for adding a controversial citizenship question to the 2020 census, the Chief Justice opined, "Our review is deferential, but we are not required to exhibit a naivete from which ordinary citizens are free. Accepting contrived reasons would defeat the purpose. If judicial review is to be more than an empty ritual, it must demand something better than the explanation offered for the action taken in this case." So, speaking for myself, what I think the Society for the Rule of Law stands for is pretty simple. Congress has the exclusive power to legislate and appropriate. The president must faithfully execute laws, not substitute his own. An unrestrained version of the unitary executive theory threatens our constitutional order. Judicial review must enforce limits on executive overreach. Major transformation of our government and its policies require legislation, not executive fiat. To the greatest extent permitted after the Supreme Court's immunity decision, no person, not even the president, can stand above the law. Checks and balances require accountability from and by each of the branches, not just mere separation of powers to insulate one branch. And as Alexander Hamilton well explained in Federalist 69, the president is no king. In sum, conservative values call on us to respect the tradition, history, and norms established by our founders to protect us from tyranny. So, are we making a difference? Obviously, I hope so, and I know all of you do too. I think we are, but all of us here believe in the principles at stake so fervently, we would continue to do what we're doing even if we weren't so sure about the extent of our impact. But for purposes of some good, old-fashioned, positive reinforcement, I'll close with an excerpt from District Judge Susan Ilston's order earlier this year, when she struck down DOJ's reductions in force at about 20 government agencies whose reductions were unauthorized by law or in the Constitution. In her first paragraph, Judge Ilston wrote, quote, "Federal courts should not micromanage the vast federal workforce, but courts must sometimes act to preserve the proper checks and balances between the three branches of government." As a group of conservative former government officials and advisors have written in an amicus brief to the court, unchecked presidential power is not what the framers had in mind. With that helpful judicial inspiration, let's all have a great conference and keep making as much of a difference together as we can. So thank you, enjoy the conference, and thanks for being here.